What's good, y'all boys? It's your boy Boss Enosch, and I'm back again with another video. This is a very special video. As you may or may not have known, back in October, I was flown out to New York to be in this Vice panel debate that we're about to watch, and we're gonna start right now. First off, god damn, boy, that nigga fresh as hell, boy. That nigga right there, not me. Listen, I can be excited, but I've never been on no platform like this before. Okay, so I can be excited. You got a problem with that? All right, let's get into it. I don't know how much they cut up and edited. I don't know. We about to see. This is the first time I see it. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm so tired of like paying $150 for a first date, and then you just ghost me. And the next week I'm like hurting for cash. I'm like, I could have really used that $150. Like, why did I have to?
Also, the trade-off of like going on a date and as the man being like, oh, this sucks, I have to pay, or as the woman being like, oh, this sucks, I might get murdered, is like a pretty big imbalance.
Bro, look at my face, bro. Look at my face when that motherfucker said that bullshit. Look at my face like, what are you talking about? What?
Like, oh, this sucks, I might get murdered, is like a pretty big imbalance.
Bro, look at my face. Look, I'm like, why did you immediately jump to a threat of getting murdered? Shut up, you're pandering. Shut up. Oh my gosh, bro. Let's continue. Whew.
How you guys doing? My name's Krishna. Thank you all for being here and talking through masculinity, what it means to be a man, etc. Obviously, we couldn't fit every man in the country into this room.
I'm sorry, bro. I look fresh, boy. My nigga, that's me. All right, what were their names? Okay, yeah, all right.
We tried to get a diverse perspective, but of course, that caveat, we're not everyone. I wanted to start by telling you why this is something that I'm interested in. I have an 8-year-old son, and I'm seeing him absorb what manliness might mean. I'm thinking to myself, like, what does it mean to be a man? To start, maybe we could just introduce each other to each other, and if you were to describe what it means to be a man or to be masculine.
My name is Tahoe. I'm a black man from the hood. When I was young, being a man, you had to be tough. You had to be hard. And now, to me, being a man is a lot different. Now, to me, being a man is knowing when to be soft. Knowing that you don't always have to run the charge. You can actually listen. You know what I mean? So things have changed a lot over the course of the years for me.
That's valid. That's valid. You know what I'm saying? As a man, generally, you're going to be looked at as, you know, the nigga in charge type shit. But there is value in not always being in that role. You know what I'm saying? Of being able to let somebody else take control type shit, or take the steering wheel. You know what I'm saying? Just not being like a control freak type shit. That's on like the far spectrum, feeling like you always got to be in control. It's okay to be soft. It's okay to understand, to listen, right? It's not okay to stay soft, okay? You got to be hard too. That's life. In life, you got to be hard. But you also got to be soft sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like with your woman, you got to be soft type shit. Or with your kids, you got to be a little soft. It's a balance. That's what it comes down to, a balance.
I'm Griffin, and I don't identify as a man. I'm non-binary. I still have elements of, you know, my identity that are masculine, elements that are feminine, elements that don't fall within that range. And I personally just don't feel tied to like the norms or the confines of gender at all.
Well, welcome.
My name is Dylan, and I think that the notion of masculinity is just something that can be possessed by man or woman. Man, woman, non-gender conforming person. What it means to be masculine is just like, you know, changing.
Yeah, but too much of the opposite in the opposite gender is not good. There'll be some masculine ass women, and that's why a lot of motherfuckers don't like the masculine ass women. And a lot of times the niggas that do, it be them like niggas like Blueface, or they getting beat on. That's more on the extreme side. But that's Krishan's very masculine woman, for example. Now, that shit is unattractive, bro. Generally speaking.
And like very fluid. But I think that, you know, masculinity is something that just, you know, like you embody based off of just like how you show up in this world as a man, and just like, you know, how you go about being your day to day.
How you show up. Interesting.
Yes.
What's up, guys? My name is Paul. I'm a fitness entrepreneur. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 4 years old with my family. It's kind of funny how we're talking about it. My take on masculinity is...
Hey, look what I'm wearing. I'm wearing that big-ass jacket, and I'm wearing a turtleneck. Boy, I was cold as hell. They had the AC on probably like 50 over there, bro. I don't know why they did that. It was so cold.
It's not about talking as much as doing. I think at its core, A man has to be efficient, competent, and be willing to do what it takes for themselves and their loved ones.
I was not always a good man. I was not always what you would call a healthy masculine man. And so as my life has changed, I've identified 5 points that I think make a truly masculine man masculine.
Okay.
I think point number 1 is a man who walks with God. Point number 2 is a man who stands on principle. Point number 3, which is a masculine man, is self-sacrificing. So someone who is willing to sacrifice for point 4, the people that he leads. A true man is a leader.
Casey was spitting like Casey was going at it with some of them though. He was going at it because they was trying to, especially when they was pushing back on. He was talking about God, bro. he was ready to fight, boy. Soldier of God.
And number 5, a masculine man is never a coward.
That's a lot there.
Yeah.
Let's get into that as we go on.
I think what it means to be a man.
Ooh, who that nigga is, boy? Who that is? That me. Let's see what this nigga about to say.
Is responsibility. As a man, it can come with a lot of power. And with great power comes great responsibility. In short words. That's it.
That's from Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah,
right?
that's what's
Uncle Ben.
Hey, man,
Jay.
that's the inspiration, boy, because it's spitting facts. This how I be saying some other videos, bro. In a lot of these stories, there's a lot of lessons and values that you can take from stories and apply to real life. And that's one that always stuck with me. Great power, great responsibility. If you had the power to do something, bro, if you had the power to make something happen or to stop something from happening and you didn't do it, like, bro, that's your responsibility because you're the only one who was in that position who could have did something. And a lot of times as a man, you have a lot of power type shit. And you got to use it responsibly. Oh, God.
Well, my name is James Killen, former United States Marine turned Air Force officer. Got a couple combat tours, but I'm also a father of 3 girls who mellowed me out. The idea of masculinity is something that I find interesting because it is changing, and I can actually see those changes in myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this panel.
Thanks for your service. Andre.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, men. I think my idea of a real man is, someone that gets the job done.
With him, bro, you'll see more once the video keep going. But he didn't really care, bro. He didn't want to be there for real. That's just his personality, like, bro. He's not trying to do this shit for real.
And provides and all that. I don't even know what that means anymore, but yeah, I don't know. It's changing every day.
How do you think it's changing?
No, it just seems like everything is changing every day. It's like a new world order, so I don't. I have a hard time keeping up with stuff, so I feel like tomorrow it's going to be something else, and people are going to comment and be like, "You're wrong, it's this now."
Why is the audio cutting
I feel
out?
like tomorrow it's going to be something else, and people are going to comment and be like, "You're wrong, it's this now."
It is hard to talk about some of this stuff because you feel like you might say the wrong thing.
I'm not really masculine myself, so I feel like I'm like the wrong person to ask.
My headphones kept messing up, kept going in and out, so he's going to watch it without my headphones in.
That I live by, and I think our culture used to live by, and I think our culture has lost its way.
I think everybody sort of has a different definition of toxic masculinity. I don't find masculinity toxic in and of itself, but I do believe in bad men, and bad men exist. But does that mean every man is toxically masculine? No.
When you're talking about a crisis on masculinity, I think that there's a lack of understanding there. So it's like masculinity, being masculine isn't toxic. It's just like there are portions of it that you can dive into that make it toxic.
Because I think a lot of what we think of masculinity is tied into patriarchy, right? Which is to say, like, for the longest period of human history, like, men dominated women and got the lion's share of stuff.
I think a lot of times some people make masculinity into a caricature, like it has to be this alpha bro tough guy.
Exactly.
And I find the low-key guy who, is a really great father and a great husband and maybe not like drinking raw eggs every day to be a lot more masculine than the alpha bro who's going and like banging 20 women per weekend and not a responsible man. I find it more masculine to be a good guy.
I think the background of this is that we are saying that gender is this like real thing that has real ideas and implications. And Griffin, I'm wondering, as someone who identifies as non-binary, how does this conversation strike you?
Well, I think that kind of becomes like irrelevant whether or not we attribute like having like a good ethical compass to being like masculine. Attributing that to like the gender constructs which we have made up, which are like somewhat pointless, like kind of just feed into needless roles that uphold the patriarchy without even knowing it. A lot of those things are just things that people should be doing because they're like morally right. Like if you're in a family, you should probably support your family. And I really don't think that it has to do with like your manhood.
These characteristics that we're talking about are baked into an old system of domestic.
That's the thing, though. People do have roles in society, so that's where it comes from. It's not outdated. It's still roles that we have because that's how nature made us. Okay, when you see a man, you gonna expect the man to be the lead, the lead of the household, and it's not also just based off of what it is. It's also what people want, okay? When you ask any average girl what type of dude do they want a dude to be in control. They want a dude to be in charge. There's certain people that don't fit that box. That's okay. But we have to understand, it's still, that's what it is.
Life.
I think that's actually where we get toxic masculinity. Like, none of us can really describe what it is, but we can see it when it happens.
So we learn it, right?
I'm human, yeah.
This is something we learned from the world. It's something we learned from like TV and shit.
It's so interesting seeing myself on a camera that's not mine. Let's focus on the conversation, though.
And it's maybe something we learned from our dads, too. Tell me about your dad.
I'm a first-generation kid. My dad is from Guyana. Grew up in very humble beginnings, poor family. First time I remember my dad telling me he loved me was when I was 17. And he was like saying like he was proud of me because I was about to graduate high school and things like that, you know. I'm appreciative of all the other things, you know, being present as a provider. But in terms of like, you know, the conversation piece and like, oh, I want to talk to my dad about, you know, sex or something. Or I want to talk to my dad about, oh, this person broke up with me and I'm feeling pretty sad about it. I didn't have those conversations.
So like emotional language as part of like how you talk to your dad.
Yeah.
And my definition of manhood came solely from my relationship with God. It didn't come from my father. It didn't come from the good influences around me.
Is God a man?
Yeah, and God is a man. And God is a father, and he's a good father. He's a perfect father. And so I think there is a clear definition of manhood where I guess that's where I diverge from everyone else in the room. I believe manhood is clearly defined by God. It is the perfect example of what a man should be.
Christian, I see you nodding your head.
I grew up in a divorced home. When you do grow up in a broken home and you don't have a father in the home,
at this point, this one, I was a little bit still getting used to being there, and I was just listening. I was observing, seeing if there's a good moment for me to cut in and say something meaningful. Because I didn't just want to talk for no reason. I wanted to speak and have something to say. Because there's a difference between talking and having something to say. You feel me? So right now I'm just listening.
recognize how important sort of both males and females are in raising a child and being in the home.
There's a balance between, masculine energy and feminine energy.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there's both within everybody. And so there's a balance that with masculine energy in itself that I think a lot of people have trouble trying to like reconcile within themselves.
Reconcile. What y'all niggas know about that word reconcile? Let me keep going.
Like, yes, being a man, you work hard, you take care of your people, but you got to be able to have that emotional side too, which is where the feminine energy comes in.
Y'all just like triggered something in my head when y'all was speaking about having both in the home. To me, I didn't really have it there. And it made me feel a way, but I think that I always wanted one. And so I wound up at a certain age going outside and trying to find what masculinity was outside. And so I went on the corner and there were 20 of us on the corner and none of us had dads. We were all messed up. And so we all taught each other the wrong way to love, to be loved. And then I think in society, there's way more people like that.
And a lot of kids who don't have fathers in the home,
No,
look for that father in the world or in a different way.
Well, first I think that attributing proper family values to a heterosexual couple with children is just not effective. I think that it's obviously a heteronormative take to be man and woman and then a child, and that's how you create a good family. And whether it's a single mother, single father, or a queer couple, I don't think that it's necessary to attribute men and women to certain roles in the household. I think that it's only due to nurture, those gender norms that we follow.
Nah, wrong. It's nature and it's nurture. I don't care. Okay? Just like, bro, no, I was gonna say something that's an extreme example. But no, it's nature and it's nurture. I have this conversation with people all the time, bro. Because you can say all these things, right? But when you come down to, when you ask regular people what do they desire, what do they want, their answers always go back to what nature is. And it could be in whatever culture, not just the West. Okay? It's everywhere.
Male and female matters. God gives you one of those identities, you take on that role. And now you're responsible for not or for fulfilling that role. There's a masculine crisis because men are not taking responsibilities for the God-given roles that they have in society. And so when you take away the need to say, God made you this or God made you this, now you don't have to take responsibility for not fulfilling what you were called to do.
When you do that, you also take away other things that somebody else may do. If I have a woman or a partner that wants to take on certain roles and I say, hey, those are my roles that God gave me in society, now I'm suppressing that person. Like, at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
To an extent, that's why, we do have to adapt to the modern world. I'm not saying that word caveman, sticks and stones, oonga boonga, okay? There is going to be change. Change is okay. But we can't go so far into change where we say everything natural is wrong type shit. And that's where some people are trying to take that shit. Oh, everyone can do whatever they want. Everything is free. No, come on, bro. Not everything is like that. We're rooted in the foundation and we go from there. What can we change and not change and all that? What can we evolve from? So that's why, let's say in your partner situation, you know what I'm saying? Let's say let's say you take a girl on dates, bro, and the girl wants to pay for a date. No, I got it. Like, bro, you're doing too much. Let her pay. She want to pay, let her pay. What the fuck? But I think more people are definitely on that type of timing because the roles are changing. Back then, like, let's say early America, bro, you could survive, only the men work, and you could survive on one income, have a house, provide for 2, 3, 4 kids, have a car, send your kids to college, and you'll be fine. You can't do that nowadays. So we have to adapt. We're forced to adapt regardless.
Yeah, you define who you are and how you behave under God. That's what God gave us, free will.
But also, I think that the religious beliefs should not be used to, dictate how other people identify or how other people live their lives.
Humans need predictability, and when we put each other in these boxes, it gives us the opportunity to make decisions quickly. And I think that's what we're fighting is as a civilization at the moment, is the desire to put 7.5 billion people in specific boxes so that we can have some sort of predictability or stability in our lives. I was an emotionally abusive young man in my 20s because I had an idea of what my wife should do. And it caused a lot of stress.
Why were you the way you were?
I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of pent up rage. I had, some combat stress that I had to deal with also.
He was a cool guy too. He was a cool guy.
That I wasn't dealing with because men don't show emotion.
There is a social construct that benefits men. And so the responsibility that I've learned as I've gotten older is learning how to not enforce my power, learning over women, over people.
You're saying that role gives men more privilege, like an advantage and privilege. I'm saying that it is more self-sacrificing. I do not have free time. I do not have hobbies. I do not wake up during the day and do what I want to do ever. I'm thinking about my wife, my kids, my business.
But that's your decision, and that's not like a mandatory thing of your masculinity.
Well, if you believe that God is true,
I don't.
And you believe that He is God,
oh boy,
then you do have that responsibility.
Oh boy,
if you
this is the start. This is the start of it. I don't. This is the start.
Believe that God is true,
I don't.
And you believe that He is God, then you do have that responsibility.
What privileges are you referring to? Like, what privileges do men have?
We've constructed this entire society to benefit us.
Break it down. Like, what privileges exactly?
Like, we talk about the way.
What are you talking about? What privilege do I have? Please tell me, please. Because I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid, okay? Tell me like I don't have. I wish I wasn't stuttering, but like I said, I was nervous.
What privileges are you referring to? Like, what privileges do men have?
We've constructed this entire society to benefit us.
Break it down. Like, what privileges exactly?
Like, we talk about the wage
Yeah,
gap.
you like that?
Entire
Nigga, I said break it
society
down,
to
nigga.
benefit us.
Break it down. Like, what privileges exactly?
like we talk about the wage gap, or if you look at Roe versus Wade, men controlling women's bodies.
Wage gap. That's the first time wage gap was mentioned. We're gonna come back.
Even if there might be those privileges, there's also more men who commit suicide, more men incarcerated.
I think when you talk about like incarceration rates and things like that, like
I hope they didn't cut out what I said about the wage gap. I said it later because they kept saying it. I was like, bro, no, these niggas is wrong, bro.
things that men are a victim of, I think that it's important to like recognize, like, I don't think that men are oppressed solely on the grounds that they're men. I think that men like experience oppression based on like the intersections of their identities, which is, you know, why we see like different like lower class jobs being worked by men, or like higher suicide rates, or like incarceration rates going up, because like men, like black men, brown men, indigenous men, queer men, trans men, etc. Those people like face oppression, they experience oppression, but it's not solely due to their identity as a man.
But I think dating and sex is probably a very interesting place to think about this, because it's a changing field as far.
I don't agree with that, because people do things because you're a man all the time. People look at you like a threat because you're a man. You can walk outside and people will be scared that you're there because you're a man. That's facts. That happens. Let's say work discrimination. They're expected to do a lot of heavy lifting because what? You're a man. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it's different level. Everyone's discrimination is different. I'm not saying it's a oppression Olympics, but to say that men don't face any type of discrimination is wrong. Excuse me. You know, that's why a lot of workplace devs are men. You know what I mean? Oh, you can do that. You're a man. Just do it. A lot of people, especially a lot of these activist types and a lot of liberal types, they begin to like female dating strategy. Those uber super Nazi feminists, like they discriminate against men specifically.
Or as like what people expect of each other.
I date in New York City a lot, and dating wise, there's a lot that's like asked of a man. Like first dates are like nightmares.
I got a question on that, yeah.
Dude, it's like, I'm like, what do you want? They got like a checkbox, like, are you gonna pick me up? Are you gonna walk on the outside of the sidewalk? Are you gonna open the door? Are you gonna pull out the seat? Are you gonna pay for the meal? Are you gonna be interesting during the dinner? Are you gonna be funny during the dinner? And then when you walk home, are you gonna drop me off? Are you gonna watch me walk inside? And then are you gonna text me after? And it's like trying to defuse a bomb. Like if you think you're like red wire, blue wire, and you're like one little thing and you're just done. And it's like, I'm to the point where I'm like, I'm so tired of like paying $150 for a first date.
Wait,
and then you just ghost me. And the next week I'm like hurting for cash. I'm like, I could have really used that $150. Like, why did I have to, you know what I'm saying?
Like, the trade-off of like going on a date and as the man being like, oh, this sucks, I have to pay, or as the woman being like, oh, this sucks, I might get murdered, is like a pretty big, you know, imbalance.
On a first date,
we said stuff after that. What the fuck? They cut it, bro. They cut it. We got into an argument after that, bro.
Is like a pretty big, you know, imbalance.
Bro, they cut it. Oh my gosh. Why did they cut? Bro? Oh my gosh, bro. You can see my face. I was like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? No one.
On a first date.
And of course, they put that nigga nodding, bro.
Should the man, or whoever identifies as the man on the date, pick up the check? Show of hands. Who thinks yes?
Yeah, should is a weird.
Yeah, should's a weird way to put it.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
How would you put it?
I very much love
me. I'm gonna do it regardless, but I'm not gonna say should. Oh, I think I said something about that.
gender roles. I like masculine men, and I want my masculine man to pick the check up. My friends seem to be the same. My girlfriends seem to want that as well. But I have a male friend who was naturally doing that, and with the dates he was going on with women, they were offended that he like took the check. So I think like, hey, if this woman doesn't want him to pay and she wants to show she can pay, go off.
I think it's a matter of preference. Like, you know, if someone picked it up for you, like you develop a kind of rapport, respect with that person, like, so be it. If the other person, you know, the woman you're with doesn't want that, then maybe it's not the match for that person. So I think it's dependent on the situation.
I think that there's such a thing as financial abuse, and men seem a lot of time, because they spend, that a woman has to be under them or owes them something.
I think that's when you get toxic.
Me personally, I love to take care of my partner. I love that feeling that I give them, that they're taken care of when they're with me. And that's when it's with friends, anybody. If you're with me, I got you.
Like, I guess what I'm hearing from you, Andre, is that there's like a lot of pressure to inhabit the masculine side of the social expectation, and yet you might not get the benefit that you would have expected generations ago. And that puts you in a weird position.
Yeah, well, we live in a city where there's 8 million people, and you know, a lot of these girls, especially if you're really attractive, guys are hitting on them all day. So they feel like
this is when the host is gonna say something that I thought was pretty like stupid. Like, what are you talking about?
celebrities. You got so many options. I don't blame you. I'd be the same way. Becomes like
always somebody better.
I think technology has a big part to do with that now. Like modern times, like online dating, Instagram.
Especially as a girl, you're gonna have 30 DMs a day.
Yeah, the DMs.
You know what I'm saying? Swipe it up on your picture.
I think that's a big reason why it can be tougher for some men.
Not successful.
I think what he's saying is
oh, bro, they cut it. What the fuck? Why did?
There's a toxicity.
Oh my gosh, why did they cut it, bro? They cut it because they knew it was fucking stupid. Listen, as soon as after he said that, the host, that nigga, Krishna, this nigga said, oh, so what you're saying is when women get more successful, they get more attention. Matter of fact, they cut out Andre's whole story too. Andre said how he was talking to one girl and he could tell that she was new to New York because she was giving him all types of attention, like she really fucked with him for real. So he's like, I already see where this is gonna go. Because every time he talks to a girl that's new to New York, they start to change after they've been there for a while because they start getting so much attention because you look good, you're in New York, there's niggas everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And you're walking everywhere, you're out in front of people everywhere. And so Krishna goes, oh, so what you're saying is when women get more successful, they get more attention. What? That's why I said right there, you can hear me. I said, not successful. What are you talking about? But they couldn't cut it because Buddy started talking. Bro.
Reason why it can be tougher for some men.
Not successful.
I think what he's saying is there's a toxicity to femininity as well. There is a toxic side to both genders.
Well, I think anybody can be narcissistic, but I think that it's like weird to randomly attribute that to like women in New York because they're being complimented all day.
There's a term, it's called absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, but that is, when we're talking about masculinity, that's what we've had. We've typically had that. We can do whatever we want, and we do it because we squeeze, we corrupt, we take. Historically,
niggas cannot do whatever they want. Look, they say shit like this, but it's not referring to all men. It's referring to the top niggas. The top niggas. Then most niggas is not the top niggas. So I don't like when they say stuff like that because it's not referring to regular people, bro. Niggas can't get away with whatever they want. No, especially not now.
Take over things, places that you don't like, and you rape the women, and you take the gold, and you do what you want.
Bro, he's talking, going over taking place wherever you want. He's talking about, first of all, he's talking about a lot of imperialist niggas. He's talking about ancient kingdoms. America still does that, but that's America in itself, not men. Bro, what are you talking about? Oh my gosh.
Because you have that power. Now
he's talking about cavemen, bro. He's talking about unga bunga rocks and sticks. That's what he's talking about. Going and taking over people's villages. Nigga, do I look like I'm taking over somebody's village?
See, women have that power. We're like, whoa, she's literally just getting a taste of the power that men have had for centuries.
But on the flip side of this perspective of dating, of like the poor guy who goes on these dates and gets ghosted and it's a struggle to date, on the other side of that is men have more sex, men cheat more, they have more affairs. So if I'm a woman and I'm looking for a guy, I would be really selective. I would have a list of what I was looking for, and the guy would have to meet those standards and they would be high.
I think that over the last several years, the Me Too movement has given a lot of insight into what women are feeling in the workplace, what they're experiencing, how they're being abused and otherwise silenced, how institutions of power have kept them silent. And we've heard some really awful stories and some terrible shit. I want to hear from you guys what you think about what the Me Too movement did. Has it gone too far? What does it mean for you?
I think it's good for women to expose men who are doing evil things in the workplace. I think it's been a good thing in exposing sexual abuse. There's also the opposite side of that coin where women are allowed privilege to do certain things that men are not. So in the workplace, I was working at a place where a woman was grabbing me inappropriately, doing things that were inappropriate. And when you bring that up to your coworkers, you know what they say? They laugh and they say, you should be excited, right? So if a man is sexually abused, the stigma totally changes.
Well, I don't think Me Too necessarily is what prevented people from believing you and your story. And like your story is valid, like I'm not here to suppress that, but I do think that like it's worth noting women are far more likely to be victims of sexual assault.
You just experienced a little bit of weakness that women feel most of the time.
When we're talking about constructs, you know, you guys are saying we need to deconstruct masculinity. I'm saying there are unequal biases with both genders.
When it comes to it not necessarily being as viewed as valid, it happens to be the case because of other men, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, other men are the people that downplay that, and that's where we come back to the talk of, you know, patriarchy and things like that.
Was put in place by men and is enforced by men.
Well, and I
agree with that. You know, men, there's other men that do that. You know what I'm saying? They do say that. Oh, you should like it. You should like it. You should like it. But there's women that also say that, too. What do I think about that? I don't know. It just depends, because there's some people that take it serious, some people that don't. But generally, though, listen, this is the difference. Whenever something like that happens to a woman, everybody takes it serious. Okay? And there's some niggas that don't take it serious. When something like that happens to a man, no one takes it serious at all. Nobody takes it serious. There's no outrage, no media blitz, nothing. That's not Me Too's fault. What I should have said back then, because I didn't really even think too much about Me Too, but I would have said back then was like, if you could say Me Too went too far, I would say to the point where, you know, there's people that report things that aren't anything. There's stories where, let's say, a dude tapped a female coworker on the shoulder. Good job. She took that type of way. Why'd you touch my shoulder? And, you know, the situation like that where, you know, now they're trying to make men scared of even talking to women or even just being around women at work. You know what I mean? And that's not a healthy work environment to begin with, to think that, oh, you're always on, someone's always watching you, gotta always be on edge. Yes, it's good that the men who do evil things and grabbing and sexually assaulting girls at work, oh yeah, without consent, get them out of here. That's good. On the flip side, you're making witch hunts. You dig what I'm saying?
Went for a walk to get dinner last night. Now I walked several blocks because I wanted to check out a few things, and it was dark. Not a single time did the idea that I would be physically or sexually assaulted cross my mind. Not a single time. I can imagine that doesn't really work out for women.
I don't know why he said physically assaulted. Someone could come up and rob your shit, bust your shit right now. What are you talking about? It doesn't matter. Sexual assault is different. As a man, if someone throws you, you're not going to expect to get sexually assaulted, possibly, right? But definitely beat, rob, gunpoint. For a woman, this is the added element of possibly a sexual assault.
It comes down to biological differences. As a man, you're more likely to be able to have more of a chance to fend off someone attacking you. As a woman, not really. So that's why, we have things like mace and tasers or having a gun.
Is it something about it's hard to...
More. Why didn't they finish the rest I said? Bruh, what I say after that? I said something. I said, fuck, what did I say? Oh, I said about, because somebody said, oh, well, as a man, are you going to be scared walking down the street, whatever? I said, bruh, yeah, bruh, even over here, I was walking around New York. I never been here. I know what they do in New York. Anybody can run up and get my ass right now, bruh. Obviously, I got to be my P's and Q's. It's not just because I'm a man, I can walk around blind. No, I have to be aware still, regardless.
To admit that you're a victim?
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to admit that you're a victim.
Yeah, for sure.
And to complain about it. People look at you like, remember Terry Crews? You can get his nuts squeezed and shit.
Right. It's like, why didn't you do something? Why'd you let him?
Look how the world ridiculed him.
They cut what I said again. Why did they cut it?
Oh, you ain't do nothing. Like, oh, you a bitch. So we as men, especially super guys that grew up in super masculine houses, we don't really like to admit weakness.
Well, and it's in our language, right? Like, don't be a bitch. Like, don't be a pussy.
Right.
Like, it's very real.
We internalize that.
Yeah. But that's all examples of toxic masculinity. Like, it's never to invalidate somebody's experience.
That's the thing, though. If somebody grabbing your ass and you're a man, why the fuck you ain't beat their ass? You know what I mean? That's not toxic masculinity. That's defending yourself. Now, to make fun of the person, okay, that's when it's towing the line. You make fun of him. Which I think people definitely did make fun of him. But, if someone is doing something to you, and especially as a big, swole dude, it's like, bro, why don't you beat them up? Or why don't you, yeah, you can understand being shocked or confused, but you can't blame people for thinking, damn, why don't you defend yourself? That's not toxic masculinity. That's just common sense.
But, it must be obvious that, these are rules and roles enforced by men and created by men.
Well, and toxic masculinity and power kind of go hand in hand. I mean, we're talking about peanut butter and jelly.
You know what it is? I think sometimes we got to go to work, and like if we're caught complaining about it, we're like admitting weakness. It's like, you're not a man.
How does that feel?
It doesn't feel great, but that doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do. If you talk about a little bit of pressure that goes with it, yeah, there's a little bit of pressure. If you can withstand it, you become a successful man.
But what does that have to do with being a man? Like, surely like a woman can do all those things, so why even attribute it to your gender?
That's a good point, but I think also, if you're talking in terms of biological differences, generally, men are more logical, right? More reasoning, more
I disagree.
based.
There is no scientific backing for that whatsoever.
I just think it's a commonly used stereotype. I mean, I'm not.
So what
I just maybe talking about, okay, you guys can say that. I think more about me. Like, I'm more of like a logical,
Sure.
factual-based guy.
I should have said, like, because we already know that. You know what I'm saying? We already know that. Everybody knows that. You can disagree how you want to. Everybody knows that. But what I should have said was bring up how, especially women, they're more emotional, right? They're the more nurturing. They're the more emotional. They go through a fucking influx of hormones every month. How they can flip on a dime. You know what I'm saying? And they feel their emotions stronger than men feel those emotions, those same emotions. So that's why. But it was hard to say it on the spot. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think of that right that quick. I was listening.
Like, I have
Definitely, if I was on another one of these shows, I'd definitely be a little more combative. You know what I'm saying? More bang, bang, bang.
emotions, but I don't let that deter me from what I need to do, like my reasoning.
Do you talk with people about your emotions a lot?
I mean, I have friends. I have close guy friends I can talk to.
You do?
Yeah.
There's an interesting...
Look how they show the motherfucker face. Like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Came out where, like, guys these days have fewer than 3 friends. Like, it's hard for men to make friends with each other.
I think that's a big problem now in modern times, because you hear about, the suicide.
I don't know if that's facts. I think there's certain men that don't have friends, you know what I'm saying? But most men, I don't know.
The rates going up. I think that's a big reason for it. Men aren't allowed to talk about it with safe people. So if you talk about masculinity crisis, that's the crisis right there.
I think that men find friends very easily in terms of like, oh, yo, you lift 240, I lift 242, let's spot each other, like basketball or whatever. But I think that we have superficial relationships in those friendships, in which like it's very like surface level, like coming back to what you're talking about. We don't talk about feelings and things like that. That comes back.
That's funny you said that, 'cause you can say the same thing about women. I don't agree with that, but you can say the same thing about women, right? Oh my gosh, girl, you're so pretty. Oh my gosh, girl, let's go out, let's go get drinks. Yes, girl, period. Bro, I've seen it with my own eyes too many times, bro. I think that's why I'm smiling right there. I was about to laugh. I was like,
back to how you're brought up and how like boys are taught in certain ways how we go about talking to each other and how we go about expressing ourselves.
How much of this is men putting ourselves in a little box? I can tell you, I wouldn't have.
I don't like where this is going. Okay, I don't like where this is going. They keep trying. Men do this to themselves. Men do this. Men do that. And they keep cutting when people is pushing back, bro. I'm peeping cuts.
Shared my emotions with
like I said, we was filming for 2 to 3 hours. They cut this video down to 43 minutes.
People when I was younger. But I have people in my life now who I feel completely comfortable sharing my insecurities, my vulnerabilities, how I'm feeling. That ends up being one of the reasons why men end up with limited friends. Because, I mean, how many people can you actually feel like you can be open and honest with?
But there's something holding people back.
Yeah,
men
and I think it's us. I think we're doing it because we're putting ourselves in this masculinity box, if you will.
I think that vulnerability for men oftentimes is viewed as surrender, and like that is that's an example of weakness in which like someone can possibly take advantage of it, or it used to be viewed as such, where it's like, all right, cool, like he cried, oh, that means he's soft, so now I can challenge him.
And this is something that I really struggle with. As a black man that grew up in the hood, you couldn't be soft. You couldn't come outside. You know what I'm saying? So you had to.
But look, that's not a male thing. That is an environment thing, right? When we talk about cultural norms or societal norms, that is an environment thing. You're in a harsh environment. that creates harsh, hardened people. Obviously, you can't be soft there because of the environment, not because of men. Because of the environment. I should have said that.
Take on this persona in order to be a quote unquote man. As I got older, I realized I still had to do that with women. I had to be a certain way for them to look at me as a man. And if I didn't perform in that manner, they also called me a bitch.
Yeah, they want a real, like...
Right?
Poster.
So it's like, as progressive as I may want to be, is the world accepting of that as a whole? Because even if the other men don't like it, but the women like it, I might be like, I don't care what the guys think, as long as the women like it. But there are spaces where the women will be like, look at him, he wants a finger in his butt. Sorry.
No, let's talk about fingers in the butt.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not my type of guy. He's not my type of guy. And I can't be open with sex or accepting having gay friends,
That's what you like?
But I can't, right. You can't be open about certain things because then you become questionable and you're pushed out of the safe space.
Sex is a difficult thing for men to talk about even with each other, especially if you do have some kind of kink.
Because you're not allowed to be vulnerable. You're not allowed to be...
Sex is a
things because then you become questionable and you're pushed out of the safe space.
That shit was funny though.
Like, look at him, he wants a finger in his butt. Sorry.
No, let's talk about...
Bati boy! I was joking. I ain't doing that shit though. But if that's what you like, that's what you like. Shit. Bro, that nigga funny. He funny for that.
About fingers in the butt.
You know what I'm saying? That's not my type of guy. He's not my type of guy. And I can't be open with sex or accepting having gay friends.
That's what you like?
But I can't, right. You can't be open about certain things because then you become questionable and you're pushed out of the safe space.
Sex is a difficult thing for men to talk about even with each other, especially if you do have some kind of kink.
Because you're not allowed to be vulnerable. You're not allowed to be weak. You're not allowed to fail. And a lot of people...
I was like, what? Because, bro, niggas talk about sex all the time, bro. Like, niggas don't care. Niggas is going to say it. Even if it's something crazy, they going to say it.
People that when you say the suicide rates, you give up because you have nowhere to turn.
I kind of disagree with you on the fact that pressure is causing. I think it's more the lack of support and guidance for a lot of guys. Like, they don't know where to turn. Like a lot of guys, suicide, I think, is like when you lose hope, right? So they just don't have hope.
What about not wanting to go get it? Because there's places to be, there's people to go. You can go to church.
I mean,
you can go to therapy.
As
There's
much as
places
you
to
say
go.
that, but I don't feel like, when you say guys don't want to express weakness, I think taking that step is hard for a lot of men. Because then that expresses weakness. It's hard for a lot of guys.
You know what's interesting? What I'm hearing is that as men, you also are victimized by the sexist expectations of masculinity.
It also makes it hard for men to love themselves and love themselves enough to understand that they're in trouble, and I know that's something that happened in my life. It was before I did finally go to therapy and get the demons out that I needed to get out. It took me meeting a woman who actually made me want to love myself.
You found a woman who gave you peace and changed you a lot. Well, great if a man is dating a woman and she doesn't like that he's not masculine enough, it's kind of like, to me, I feel like too bad for him. He should go find someone else. That's part of the dating scene. Everyone has things that they like and things that they don't like.
I feel like your preference is your preference, but at some point, I think it's noteworthy and responsible to understand where those preferences or originate.
Not necessarily. I think our life experiences form what we really want in our dating life. And because I grew up in a broken home and I didn't have a man in the house, I want a man who gives me security and protection. I don't think me deconstructing masculine is gonna do that for me. I was missing that in my childhood, and that's what I want in a man.
I tend to diverge from the Freudian daddy issues stuff when it comes to
Oh my gosh, Freud. Oh my gosh.
Congratulations, I'm so happy for you. I want a man who gives me security.
Thank you.
I think
Freud.
If I'm with a woman and the bad dates I've had is when I'm talking about my problems, I'm complaining about something, I'm not gonna see that woman. If I'm projecting more strength and I'm more charismatic, I'm positive, I'm probably gonna see that women. So I think as much as like guys, you know, you want guys to be vulnerable, that doesn't work a lot of times. And I think it just comes down to that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it is. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
And it sounds like a lot of you are saying that's wrong.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
and
that's
it's
wrong.
like-
I'm not saying
it's like-
wrong. I think it is what it is.
I just think that society teaches you have to be a certain way.
And that's really.
And that's my issue. Because
Right.
if this is who you are, your character, right, it just blossoms into this person that loves to pay for dates, loves to open doors, and loves to walk in the house, then that's fine. But when society tells you that from a young boy, that that's the only way to be as a man, this is the only way to be. And you think about things like, say, people on the down low that don't want to come out till later because they're scared of societal pressures, right? You should be able to be whoever you want without society telling you you have to be this way in order to fit in this box.
Pressure is on like the body. Like
They cut some more, bro. You could tell. Look at my mouth.
pressure
I was just talking, bro.
is on like
And I remember when he asked that question, because he interrupted when he asked that question about body image too.
the body. Like pressure is to be buff, to like look good.
There is a certain pressure, I guess you can call it, for guys to look a certain way, especially if they're trying to attract women. So I think it comes down to just men who look a certain way tend to look more competent. They can protect.
I was just gonna add on to what you were saying. If a guy looks fit, if a guy looks strong, okay, as a girl, she's probably thinking, if I'm on the street and somebody tries to do something to me, I know that he can handle it.
I also think generally,
Bro,
like,
what? They play the full thing. They be doing. I don't like the little cuts they be doing. Even when I watch the Feminist one, I could tell they doing little cuts. I said more than that.
If somebody tries to do something to me, I know that he can handle it.
I also think generally, like, guys who don't have the body that they're looking for, or generally, they're not as healthy. It's not just a look thing, it's just a health thing.
Yeah, that's
you know,
it.
the body and mind are connected. If someone is strong, they're probably gonna look strong, and they're probably gonna feel strong. So I think when you say it's a pressure, I think it can be construed as a healthy pressure. Hey, get strong, be strong, because you're gonna be a healthier and more mentally fit individual.
For
That's right,
example, I
baby.
was a gymnast, and I think, you know, the training that I did not only trained my body, but it winded up training my mind and making me a stronger human, period.
As the skinniest person here,
Pretty skinny.
you skinny? All right, as the second skinniest,
Pretty skinny.
you skinny? All right, as the second skinniest person here. No, it's like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you do. I've had a bunch of girls like friend zone me, and I'd be like, why? And they're like, you're just too skinny. And I'd be like, damn. I mean, they kept it so real, I can't.
That's, yeah,
But I'm
kind of
like-
him to say that, yeah. Is saying that there is a good and natural connection between like feeling good, healthy habits, looking good, and that there's a masculine ideal to that of some sort. Does anyone disagree with that here?
I do. Body diversity exists across like multiple spectrums, and I think that it's unfair to like only attribute like mental fortitude and like mental strength to like physical strength. Not having like a perfectly in shape body doesn't necessarily mean you're unhealthy by any means, and I also don't think it necessarily means that you like lack mental fortitude.
I don't think I'm saying that to look strong is the only way to be mentally strong. I think as long as you feel like you have a competent physical body, I think that's going to benefit your mental health.
How do you define competent?
Yeah.
I think in terms of what you're trying to do. So are you a student? Like, what are your endeavors in life?
Me?
Yes.
I'm a student athlete.
Okay, what
And-
kind of sport?
I'm a springboard diver.
Okay, do you train to do springboard diving?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you feel good when you train and you do well on the springboard?
Yeah.
I think that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. If you're training, making yourself stronger, making yourself more fit, making yourself healthy, and then you walking outside and you can see the difference, you feel the difference, you're going to feel better because you see the difference in the progress of what you've been doing. Okay? That's what it comes down to.
You feel confident at the endeavors you're trying to do, I think that's
But I think
what
that there
contributes to
are
a
lots
mental.
of like non-athletic people who may not be in like the same physical shape as like an athlete would be,
Right.
who are competent in what they're trying to do because that like action has nothing to do with like their like.
So that's where I disagree.
Yeah, shut up. No. Bro, you know how much fat, I know a lot of fat people, okay? Them niggas do not feel good on a day-to-day. whether you're fat or just not as fit, you know what I'm saying? They do not feel good. Bruh, if you're going up the stairs and you breathing hard after going up 5 steps, that's not good. You don't feel good, and you don't mentally feel good. I don't care what nobody's saying. I don't care what you say. Hold on, let's keep on.
I agree with you. That's why I disagree with you. I think some people who don't realize the potential for their physical to blend into your mental is something that needs to be talked about. I think it's undervalued.
It's not that you have to work out to have a competent mind. It's that working out does help with competency. We already know when you work out, endorphins are released. People feel better. There's so many times I wake up, I don't want to go to the gym. It's going to be the worst day ever. I'm in a bad mood. I go, my endorphins are released. I'm great. I'm woken up. Like, we have the science for that. So
it's not like it plays very little. We've had presidents in wheelchairs that were very confident, successful men who couldn't walk. And so I'm going to say that it doesn't define you.
I think there's always
But it's the societal pressure to be in shape for men.
I
don't like when my stomach, when I'm having sex, my stomach like is over her butt or whatever. Like, I want to eat less, me. But
Paul can
nobody's
change
like,
that.
you're fat.
We've spent all this time like deconstructing masculinity and all these things, but then
That's not a societal thing, bro. Trust. Because we see all the time we see in the media, movies, whatever, we see plenty different types of body types of men with women. Any type of woman, okay?
Seems as though if a woman or someone dating says, hey, I want a swole guy, suddenly it's like, sorry, I don't think that's a societal pressure. That's what that woman wants and she's entitled to have.
But
It's context.
I also, I have body type.
I agree with
preferences.
that.
Like I'm not gonna say what it is, but there's certain girls where I'll go on and I'm like, you don't really have what I'm looking. I don't say that because that's the dick, but in my head, I'm just like, this isn't gonna work.
So
I
it's
think
one
that's
thing to have a
fair.
preference and another thing to make like a sweeping conclusion and then broadcast it everywhere.
No, people are entitled to date their preference.
Because when you look at statistics, they say that 70% of CEOs are over the size 6'4", for example. So there is amongst men a pressure to be bigger, and bigger men tend to be in charge, and that's proven. Statistically proven. And so there is a pressure for men who are naturally smaller,
aside from being tall, taller, because women like tall men, you know what I'm saying?
Overweight, naturally not as fit, to become fit or to become bigger.
Well, and every one of us here have heard little man syndrome. We've all
Who hasn't heard that
every one
saying?
of us have
He's got Napoleon syndrome. He's got little man syndrome.
That's the thing, though.
There's nothing you can do about it, and that's where it becomes harmful. Specifically, short king spring or whatever. Like a person, you can't there is I guess on Twitter I've seen people getting a surgical procedure to break their legs and add 6 inches to their height or something like that.
It's stuff you can't.
You know what I mean? It's but besides that, which is a really expensive procedure, it's also comes into socioeconomic background and things like that as well too.
And
it's you literally can't do anything about that. I think that's where it becomes harmful. Which all right, if there is the pressure in which I can't date a person or I can't get a position or I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm not a certain height or something I literally cannot change about myself. What now?
What is big dick energy?
It's when confidence crosses the line of arrogance. That's exactly.
People have told me I have
agree.
BDE.
You have BDE?
Listen. Look how they cut it, bro. No. We were deep in a conversation. I don't remember what we were talking about, but it looked like they cut that whole part out. He interrupted the conversation that we were having, bro, to ask us that.
Yeah, people told me I had BDE.
You did in that back room.
Not to show off.
Right? Even he said, look at that.
I think BDE is just a confident man. I don't think it's an arrogant man. I don't find arrogance to be big dick energy. I find it to be insecure. If you're arrogant, you're trying to
I find it so odd to equate somebody's the size of their genitals to the quality of their character. That's nobody's
There's a lot of
business.
odds. More of just
And they asked too. He asked, does Donald Trump have big dick energy? Bro, I swear, he asked that and it was so awkward. We all paused and was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would you ask that question? And then when somebody asked what it was, that's when he asked, okay, what is it?
a metaphor.
I don't agree.
Yeah, for confidence.
See, but
It's not really
but
like
then it comes back. Now we're getting into like a deeper conversation, which like some men see a value based off the size of what they're carrying between their legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's why the conversation of big dick energy comes into place, because people feel as though like a man that's like more that's packing more down there. You know what I mean? Is more like one, they're better in bed. They're like more confident people. They're exuding a certain energy. So that like the stereotypes. So the stereotypes associated with having a big dick.
The lack of a need to overcompensate to society because you're adequate.
You know what you got.
You walk with confidence because you can tell when somebody's putting on because they lack in certain ways. And men, me, and people I know equate manhood and masculinity to their dick size and how much money they got. Like it's like, yo, you feel more confident.
And sometimes that kind of stuff bleeds into violence. And you see that in domestic violence situations, like men are like the perpetrators of that by and large. There's something wrong with masculinity when it becomes violent.
100%. I also think because of testosterone and a number of different things, men are inherently more violent.
But being able to control it, that's
we
important.
should teach
It's being able to control
That's
it.
where the responsibility comes in.
Yeah.
I think you hear the whole saying like it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, and I think there's a lot of wisdom behind that saying.
Oh, George Orwell said people sleep peaceably in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. I think that's a big thing, but the key is to be ready, to have the ability. And also the humility and the confidence to not use it unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't think we teach boys that enough because I think promoting violence is extremely toxic.
Is there something inherently violent about masculinity?
Inherently violent? I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. If a majority of men were bad, evil, violent, a lot of us would not be sitting here today. Okay, we'd still be in the Stone Age. You know what I mean? That's why I kind of push back against that idea that inherently men are violent, inherently masculinity is bad, is violent, because I don't believe that that's true.
Why do you think that such a vast majority of mass shootings are done by men?
I think that's a mental health issue. I think that, and this is why we're talking about men in crisis. Yeah, because men are more willing to do what they have to, to not do what they have to do, but to take action in terms of that. And that's how we talk about this, men in crisis. A lot of those mass shooters are males because a lot of males, they don't know how to have an outlet or to find outlets to talk about what their issues are. That's what it comes down to.
We know that these mass shooters, most of them are white males. We know that. So when I talk to a lot of white males that have traditional values, say,
Was I spitting or was I just talking bullshit?
or maybe a traditional upbringing, they feel like they've been made to be the villains of society. And so I feel that pressure a lot of times. I feel like, hey, like when we're having this conversation, even I hear words like patriarchy, traditional society, right? So I feel like I'm being put in a box and made to be the villain. And I hear this from a lot of white.
You notice how they keep putting the camera on when people are talking, they put the camera on the motherfucker in the dress on their reactions.
Males. I feel like I'm the bad guy. I feel like I'm the villain. So maybe at some point, mentally, they're breaking and becoming that villain. They're becoming that monster that they've been made out to be.
Be the exception. Yeah. If you're worried about being put into a box that is one that is like clearly harmful based on like what people are doing, then don't do that. Mass shooters is like obviously like a sensitive topic, but a lot of them are like men with like little to no friends who like go out and in like a burst of rage commit like atrocities. And I don't think that it has to do with how they're hardwired as men. I think that it has to do with how society like treats people like that.
I agree with you on the point that men need support and they need someone to talk to and talk about these issues.
I don't think that men have been taught emotional intelligence throughout life, right? We know, so we respond with anger. All right, if I'm disappointed, if I feel resentment, or I feel contempt, or I feel embarrassment, or I feel jealous, or any of these things that fall under that one thing, we respond with one way. And if we learn how to communicate better, if we were able to say, yo, you know what? I resent that you spoke to me that way. Or, I feel jealous, of whatever. If it was okay for men to express those things, we wouldn't feel the need to just go, you know what? Fuck you.
You can take any two 3-year-olds. You take a 3-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. I have 2 girls. you know, their first instinct is to lie to me, to manipulate me, to say their sister said this when she didn't. I have a friend that has all boys. You know what they do? They throw a fire truck at your head. Bam. That's a natural response. That's not a learned behavior. They're taught.
Oh, that's totally a learned behavior. And you give kids only like cars and gun and G.I. Joe action figures and give girls Barbie dolls. Like you.
I don't think you could say it's one or the other. I think there is some interplay between both.
Thank you guys for your honesty, your like willingness to go to uncomfortable places, willingness to debate one another. Yeah, I'm interested to see like what sticks with me like in days to come after our conversation, because I think so many things were raised in such sort of a diverse perspective group.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Nice to meet several of them.
Oh, I should have discussed the importance of handshakes.
Just in case, you know, like you guys said, masculinity is something that I think that is misunderstood.
You know, I had some people agree.
Done. No, they cut off a whole, bruh. No, they have to do a part 2. They have to do a part 2 because I told them there was 3 more moments where I said something and they was like, "Damn!" And I told a funny ass story, and they didn't show the part where Buddy left. Maybe it's because he left. They didn't want to use those parts. No way, bro. They better do a part 2, bro.
Agree with me and disagree with me.
The entire thing is uncomfortable. And
My favorite part. Oh, that's hard.
Agreeing to disagree with certain other people, and
I liked when things turned into like this weird conversation about daddy issues.
Y'all got my number. When you gonna do another one?
What was I thinking when the conversation went to buttholes?
Do another one.
Weird conversation about daddy issues.
Y'all got my number. When you gonna do another one?
What was I thinking when the conversation went to buttholes? How do I answer that?
Bruh. Well, that's the video. Let me know what y'all think. It was a pretty cordial conversation / discussion. Didn't really get too argumentative, except towards the end, which it kind of did, and I was combating. Bro, I'm really upset that they cut. You know, we're gonna talk about it in another video. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna break it down because Jesus Christ. Damn. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let's see if any of y'all seen this, saw me in here, came from the Vice video, came to my channel. Appreciate y'all.